Welcome. I'm Superintendent Tim Collins, and thank you for tuning into Hastings Community Television. We're back again, Bond and Levy, and we're going to try to do 4 to 5 episodes to keep you informed about issues surrounding the bond and the operating levy. Terry Swanson and I talked about it last time, and today with me is Board Chair Lisa Hedin. Welcome.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate having this opportunity to reach out to the community. This has been an issue that's been on the board's mind for quite a few years, and it's the right time.
I think we're going to do something a little different. Sometimes we talk in advance about, what are we going to talk about, what's our main goal, what's our main purpose, and I told Lisa that it's going to be a little bit scary for her. I really believe in the first thing that comes to your mind, your gut feeling, and it's that level of transparency to share with you and get some of the insight from a school board person, not only school board person, but school board chair on some of the issues. And we're going to, again, focus in on the bond, and then on my next presentations, we're going to focus in on the operating levy. I want to clarify once again, a bond is for buildings, reinvestment in buildings, and a levy is for the learning part or the pay for the salaries, the benefits, etc., for all our employees of the school district. Both of them are taxes on the community, but as you're going to see again, the bond is not going to increase taxes on our property, and you're going to see that in our presentation. So with that, I told Lisa what we're going to do is we're going to just pop up slides, so you at home are going to see this slide, and I'm going to ask Lisa to share what she thinks of when she sees that slide, and then I'm going to share what I think and how that ties into our upcoming bond. So are you ready for this?
I'm a little unsettled. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
It's not really a game, it's serious, but again, I want you to give your gut reaction when you go through it. And so the first slide that pops up, Community Facility Task Force with the members. Share some thoughts when you see that slide.
You know what, I'm just overwhelmed with pride when I see this slide. Our board is aware of the issues that are going on in our buildings and the things that need to be brought forward, but the choice was made to go with a community task force and get some buy-in and get some different perspectives. And when I look at this slide and this list of over 20 people that volunteered their time for many, many weeks and many, many hours during those weeks to come in and assess and prioritize the needs in our facilities, to me, it's just pride. It shows the commitment of the community and the willingness of its members to serve and support the schools.
And for me, when I look at the slide, I echo a lot of what Lisa said, but because I get to go second, I get to share the fact that school board took somewhat of a risk because the school board is with me twice a month for 2 to 3 hours a meeting, and they took a little bit of a risk saying we want more input. We just don't want it to be our 7 people's opinions. We want some others to come and share what they think. And I remember the night when I said to the board, well, what if they come in at 90 million and tell you that you want to go for 90 million, then what are you going to do? And in the end, it worked out beautifully. The community task force came in right around 52 million. The school board members looked at that and agreed to probably 95% of it and twisted a little bit. So I like the fact that the school board was willing to take a risk, invite in other community members, and in the end, both the school board and the community task force agreed unanimously, we need to go forward with a bond right now in the year 2017. I'll go first on this next one, and then you get to follow. And I thought about changing this picture because it's the new high school, and quite honestly, it looks beautiful. This picture looks just as good as it did back in the year 2001 when the high school still opened, and we're really proud of that fact. We have students that take outstanding care and they respect that building. We have visitors who come into the building and they respect it. Our custodial, our maintenance staff, our faculty, they respect the building. But I play on the word the new high school because still 17, 18 years later, even I myself keep referring to it as the new high school. And I remember when I first came to Hastings in 2003, everybody referred to, Tim, I would like to attend the new elementary school. And I was like, what elementary school? Well, the new elementary school. You mean the one that was built in 1989? Well, yeah, it's our newest elementary school, so I keep calling it the new school. And perception really becomes people's reality. And part of the board's perception problem is there might not be a sense of urgency because we're calling it the new high school, but the roof is leaking and some of the brick and mortar on the outside is starting to deteriorate. The track is 17 years old, and they have a life expectancy of about 15 to 18 years. So we call it the new high school. It creates a perception that we don't need to reinvest right now, and boy, we do need to reinvest in some core aspects of the new high school. Lisa, what do you think when you look at it?
Well, I have, again, a lot of those same feelings. The other day I was at a 9th grade soccer game, and I was talking to a grandparent from the other team who had gone to Hastings High School when it was the old building over where Schoolhouse Square now stands. And he was very admiring this new building and the new facility. And I said, yeah, it's terrific. We've made a great investment. The community's made a strong investment. But you have to remember, it is coming up on over 15 years old, 16, 17 years old. And if you had a house that was 15, 16, 17 years old, there's a pretty good expectation that you would have had to do something different with the landscaping in your driveway. You'd maybe be looking at replacing the air conditioning. You probably would have had at least one new set of shingles put on it. And that's how you keep it new. That's how you keep it functioning, is that you make that kind of investment. So it was interesting to have this gentleman's perspective of decades ago and look at what we have new now and realize that this is what we have to invest in going forward. And I think I'm anticipating some slides coming up, but I have a son going to the high school now, and I've walked around the building and been in some of the places I hadn't been in previously, and there is some wear and tear on the building.
Well, we'll see if those slides, I don't even, Deanna prepares these for me. I tell her some of the slides that I would like in there, and I really don't know the order here. I know it to a degree, but here we go. Well, you were right. It's your turn.
All right. I'm a little bit lost on the perspective, but what I see here when I look at this primarily is water damage. And water damage is insidious. Anybody who spends any time at all watching HGTV knows the danger of water damage and the extent of the implication. And so, yeah, we're past 15 years old on our roof. Honestly, we've had trouble on that roof for a long time. Flat roofs are difficult. They need to be done right, and they need to be maintained. And we've had challenges with ours. And the result is structural damage, and that's where we're at. So we need to resolve the roof and get that upgraded, and then fix some of the damage that's occurred to this time.
Yeah, and exactly, you know, what you said about the damage and the water damage. All of us who own homes, we understand it. It's serious and it's expensive damage. And yesterday, I was doing a presentation to our early learning advisory parent group, and before I even got to this discussion, one of the parents, she was explaining to the rest of the group the damage at the high school. And I said to her, how do you know so much about the damage to our high school? Well, she's in our theater a lot, she performs in the theater a lot, and she knows where the damage is, and at times she can smell the smell that comes from water, that mildew, that musty smell. Yeah. So she was very aware of it, and again, that definitely helps us as those individuals spread the word about what is happening to our facilities, even our new high school. Next one, I'll go first. I don't know how well this again is the high school, and I'm just going to talk about it. We showed you damage on the inside of the building. This is the front of the high school as you're walking up on the upper level, and you'd be entering the performing arts would be to your right, and the auditorium would be to your left. This shows if, I don't even know if we can zoom in or what Hastings Cable Television can do, but it shows the damage and the start of the mold that's taking place on the outside of our building too, that's very visible to people who walk up.
Right. And it looks like, you might look at this and say, oh, that just needs to be cleaned up a little bit. Except when you actually look at it in detail and you can see that the facade itself is failing, which leads me to believe that there's probably a failure in the mortar and that there's water leaking into the inside of that wall. It's nice if our high school looks great. I'm more concerned that it stays structurally sound.
And again, that's part of why Lisa and I are here today, is to share why we can't wait till 2020, why we can't wait till 2021 till the high school is fully paid off. And that's these photos show what the board, why they made the decision to go in the fall of 2017, and why the task force said we have to go right now in the fall of 2017. I can't remember, is it my turn or your turn to go first? I think it's your turn.
Oh, shoot. I think you're right. What I see with this slide is that going out for bonds, reinvestment in facilities, is a common practice. It's a common practice. I remember prior to getting on the board thinking, well, why don't you, the school district, just save some money, and when you need to do a big thing, you invest in it. Except we also want our money being spent on our students and the children that are in school today. And we want to find that balance point. And I realized that when I need to make a big financial investment in my home, that I can't always have just saved for that. And sometimes you need to take out a line of credit. I also see that some of these districts are bigger than us, and some are about our size. And we don't know the background story. Some of these people might be going out for totally new buildings or something like that.
And they are,
yeah. Which gets us to a different scale. But I think what it shows is it's a common practice to go for bonds, and that as a community, both between the community task force and our board that was looking in this same dollar value, that we're making a reasoned ask. You know, we're not making a big ask that's going to add to people's taxes. We're making a reasoned ask that's going to let us stay at the tax rate that we're collecting right now.
Yeah, when I look at it, I think that the school board and the task force were very conscientious of what we need, and the fact that if they're going to go to their neighbors and ask their neighbors, well, they don't even have to ask them to raise their taxes, because this will not have a tax impact. It will be a zero tax impact. That we want to be conscientious of our neighbors, what we want to do for reinvestment. And I think that this is proof that the board and the task force was very conscientious of that. I also, when I created this list, I didn't go out and say, okay, find me every bond that is bigger than Hastings. What I did was I contacted MDE, and I found out the Minnesota Department of Education, and I found out every school that was going for a bond this fall. And there's a lot more schools than this that are going for a bond. But I wanted schools within about a 40 to 50 mile radius of the Hastings school district, because I know that people can resonate with their neighboring schools. I don't think, if I had on here that Brainerd or Duluth or Bemidji were going for also $100 million bonds. So I didn't want to put that on there. I wanted to put the tie back into what Lisa stated earlier, and that is other communities do reinvest, and that's the process that school boards have to reinvest in communities in their buildings. It's through the bond voting process. Okay, it's my turn. We talked about this last time with Terry Swanson. I keep trying to think of better comparisons or analogies on why this is not going to raise your taxes, because I know a lot of people will say, how can you spend $49.5 million to reinvest in roofs, parking lots,
Heating
HVAC,
systems.
Todd Field? How can you do that? It's not going to raise my taxes. And a bond for a building is like a home loan, and the current high school will be totally paid off in 2021. So we're structuring our second loan or our second bond to pay interest only until 2021. And then in 2021, taxpayers' money that we were going to pay for I'll call it the old high school, those dollars now will start paying off on this new reinvestment loan. There, that's what that means. I'll see if you can do a different analogy, a different comparison on this.
Yeah, I'm not sure mine's all that much different, but the way I think about it, and I started to talk to people about it, is everybody in the school district that owns property is currently making some payment for our facilities. And that could be for the expansion the new classrooms we put in at the middle school,
Good point.
the safety and security that we've put in at Pinecrest and our elementary schools. Everybody's paying a little bit of that to catch us up. But there's an expiration date that those bonds expire. And what I'm saying to people is, I am asking you to continue to make that investment, that annual investment through your property taxes, the same one that you've been making in the past. Yes, we're going to start being able to have paid off some of the projects to this point, but it doesn't stop. Everybody knows it doesn't stop. And so what I would like to do is ask you to continue to pay at that same level, and we're going to continue to make investment in our buildings and continue to keep our facilities strong. So that might be the exact same thing that you just said.
No, I like
but
it
that's,
better.
That's the way I think about it.
I like it even better than mine. I might even start. I think we should have like points going up behind us because I would give you the point. You'd be ahead 3-2 right now. But that's a great analogy too. That part of your taxes are going to facilities. They always have been. They always.
We would like it to continue. We feel like it's important that it continues.
All right. So now you get to go first.
Okay, thank you. I was hoping for a few more things. All right, so the question at hand is what are those next investments? And there's a really detailed project list on the school website, and it's right under the link of the bond and levy. It's really straightforward. From the school board's perspective, this is what I think is the most important thing. I know we showed pictures of the high school, and the water damage to the high school is a thing. The heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system at the middle school is the single biggest thing that our district needs to reinvest in. I know you remember this last spring.
Yes.
We had a really cold day. We had a failure in one of the heating systems at the middle school, caused us to have to do a brief evacuation of the building, boom, boom, boom. Kids go back into the building. And all of a sudden, we're looking at a system that was built in the early 60s, and we need parts. Well, you can't find parts for those kinds of things.
Thank goodness for the internet.
Well, I know, exactly. So we're searching all over, and we find those parts. That's not a professional way to run a building. And for anybody that's visited the middle school, as you walk through certain doors inside, they'll say, well, this door must stay closed at all times because you're now entering an air-conditioned part of the building. Well, okay, that's fine unless you're in a non-air conditioned part of the building and you're trying to hold students' attention and trying to have a good system where people aren't distracted by their environment for learning and teaching. So to me, I'm glad that's the top of the list. That's far and away the most important thing. We've got some roof investments, parking lot investments. We've been making small investments in our parking lot that they just continue to require maintenance. McCullough, for anybody who's got kids that go there, that is a bumpy parking lot. And it's been on the list for quite a while, and it needs a reinvestment. Ongoing updates in technology, it's really hard to say what that is. We just know that the integration of technology into learning, it's happening, it's going to continue, and we want to be in a position to make wise investments there. It's always continued investment in security. We've done quite a bit, and there's going to be more to do. In addition to some of these things, you think, oh, okay, well, I could see a parking lot, but I might not really appreciate it. That is what it is. We are making some other investments that'll be more visible, and on some level might be more viscerally attractive, although they're not as important, honestly, to me as parking lots, heating, air conditioning, and technology. But there'll be a big investment in the middle school gyms and athletic facilities. They get used daily. And they also get used by community groups. Make a big investment there to upgrade that. Some flexible learning spaces. Now that's not about new space. It's not about new rooms, but it's in what you put in those rooms. What do your tables look like? What do your desks look like? What do your chairs look like? How can you divide spaces in such a way that learners that are maybe really distracted can have a quieter setting and a safer setting for their education? And then we will have some improvements at Todd Field, which is another huge community asset that gets used quite a bit by our school.
I think you did a great job on that list, and I agree with what Lisa started out with. When you look at the top three, the middle school HVAC, the high school roof, and the parking lots district-wide, if this bond vote fails, we'll be back.
Yeah.
We have to be. We
can't not
we'll
support those buildings.
We'll talk to the community again, but those are the things that, and just those three are up around 40 million of what we're doing. When you look at HVAC being 30 million, high school roof being 5.2, other parking lots, et cetera, they're right up near $40 million. And I'm just going to add a few other things that that aren't on this list.
Oh.
But the people will say to me, well, why didn't you share that? That's really important to me. And what I'm finding out is, as what we already know, that everybody has their own importance list. For example, up at the high school, out in the far practice lots, the board decided to put a parking lot out there, and it's going to cost $410,000.
Yep. Out at the end of Featherstone, just before you leave school property. Yep.
And from grandparents who have told me, finally, I can park and walk 50 yards to, or 50 feet to 100 feet to my child's activity. From Little Raiders parents that say, it's about time, we're having to crawl through ditches and we're having to park dangerously. From the parents of our soccer and lacrosse parents who practice out there, they're like, great, I don't like my 16 to 17-year-old parking out on that gravel road. When I was at Tilden the other day and I talked about the fact that we'll be replacing the windows at Tilden and we'll be looking for a security entrance. They love that. They recognize as parents that it'll be a little bit of a pain for them, but it's a pain that's worth it, and thank you, district, for looking at the security. So what I'm finding is that as we go through the list, whether it be instrument repair, that we're going to have $70,000 for instrument repair, everybody is looking at
Auditorium
it.
seating.
Auditorium seating at both the middle school and the high school. They're saying, great, you hit the core items, Tim, and you do these other things that we noticed. And I never knew how, I mean, I knew the parking lot at the high school was always brought up, but I never knew how many people would all agree that has to be done. So that's been interesting as we've gone through this process. I'll go first on this. I think that what you're seeing on your TV screen is, you know, why I show this is I keep hearing the school's always asking for money, the school's always asking to raise our taxes. That's true. The school does have to go out and get votes when it's a bond or a levy, and we do have to ask. But as our community has grown in the number of residents who help pay for these projects, who help pay for the operating levies, then it helps everybody everybody pitches in a little bit. And I know that the graph is almost skewed, but basically if you own a $200,000 home and in a 10-year period your taxes from the school have gone up $19 or about $1.90 a year, that's, I think, pretty good deal over a 10-year period. If you own a $270,000 home and your taxes have gone up $40 to $50 over a 10-year period, that's a pretty good deal. Now, I don't have ag owners on here, I don't have business owners on here, and everybody's taxed differently. I'm just looking at the residential home, but I keep showing that to show the reality of how much the school taxes have gone up in the last decade. And again, on our website, we do have a tax calculator. So if you know the value of your home or the approximate value of your home, you can go in and punch in what the operating levy will cost you, because remember, the bond that we're talking about today is not going to increase your taxes. So that's what this shows me. Lisa?
Yeah, I always struggle with this slide. And honestly, I struggle with my property tax statement, and this is why. If you look at any given year, the identified value of your property is doing this. And it did a lot of this in the early 2000s, and it's kind of come back up again. And to me, that's sort of a made up number on paper until you want to sell your house. So looking at this and imagining that somehow over the last 10 years your house has been valued and fixed at the same amount is hard for me to wrap my head around. But what I see with this is as your taxes go up and down and mostly up, the amount that you're being asked to support the schools with is pretty near steady, is pretty near stable. Different things have happened around the state portion of property tax that's gotten pushed over to the city side, and that might affect city people more than it affects township people, and I'm sure those shifts have happened. I am sure everybody's seen a big jump. But if you just peel out this part, the school part, it's steady. And with this bond, again, we're asking you to continue to stay at that amount. Continue to support the amount that you've been paying towards the bond, or previous bonds, and continue that forward into the future.
You know, and with that, I think we'd both comment on this, is that we have information on our website. We're thankful for Hastings Community TV, where we get this opportunity to share about the bond and levy. And of course, Lisa and I want you to vote yes, but we're not going to come into your home and say everybody's situation is different. But knowing the facts and being educated before you vote on November 7th is very important. And I know this is going to play off and on, so maybe September 20th will have come and gone as this is continuing to roll. But look at the dates. We are doing presentations. The presentation will last 10 minutes. It'll be very similar to what you have, and the rest of it is dialogue and questions. So please ask questions, call board members, get involved. Even in this day of social media, the number one way to sell a bond and levy and to be informed about is direct word of mouth. So please get informed.
Right, exactly. And I'll just go on that. Some people don't like going to public meetings. I kind of do, but if you can't fit these times, watch for it routing around on Hastings TV, listen to KDWA radio. Stop any school board members when you see us out and about in the community, and we are out and about in the community. And we would be happy to talk to you about this. We'd be happy to come visit your book group. We'd be happy to come visit.
Exactly, invite us
just invite us to come and talk about it. Yes, I would like everybody to vote yes on this bond. I would like everybody to vote yes on the operating levy. I believe it's important. I believe it's important for my kids and for all of the kids that are going to continue to come through our school system. And I'd like to talk to you about why. I understand that it's not probably going to be 100% to zero, but I would like everybody to take the time to find out about this and hear about our bonds, our board's reason for supporting this bond and levy.
Well, thank you, Lisa, for taking time out of your day as board chair to come and share this information. And thank you for tuning in. And thank you, Hastings Community Television, for allowing us again to come in and share information about our bond and levy. And next time you see me, I'll be talking more about the operating levy. Thank you.